refuse to lose. I'm built to win. Apply myself, I filled it in. No time for the doubt, they counted me out, I'm getting it in. Yeah. No time for no loss, I'm paying the cost, I'm in it to win. Yeah. Refuse. Mine, it can't be diffused. If you ain't thinking the same, then we playing by different rules. You can't see the vision, we living at different views. Until we complete the mission, keep getting up, never snooze. I walked a mile in my shoes, had the mind of a fool, chasing diamonds and jewels. Trust me, I was confused. Started minding my business and used my mind as a tool. Ended up finding my purpose and found the time to get to it. They told me I couldn't do it, they told me I couldn't make it. They sold it, could never break it. That's sadly mistaken. I need a piece of the pie, I want it so bad I can taste it. They told me like Toby, keep on running toes, they gon' take a few to lose. Built to win, apply myself, I filled it in. No time for the doubt, they counted me out, I'm getting it in. Yeah. No time for no loss, I pay for the cost, I'm winning to win. Yeah. Refuse to lose, I'm built to win. Apply myself, I filled it in. No time for the doubt, they counted me out, I'm getting it in. Yeah. No time for no loss, I'm paying the cost, I'm in it to win. Yeah. Refuse.
Welcome back to CTC. I'm your gracious host, Carl, and I'm back with another episode. And today, we got the final day of the weekend of the tournament and the NIT. We have the round of 32 for the day, and we have the second round of the NIT for today. 6 games in the NIT, 8 games in the National College Association men's basketball tournament. So 14 games in total to go over. But before we do that, yesterday we did go 6-2 in the tournament. Our 2 losses being Gonzaga, which lost to Texas. Texas as an 11 seed makes the Sweet 16. Shout out to them. And I got to do it, man. I have to apologize for Coach Sean Miller. Excuse me, because earlier in the week I talked about how I don't see Texas advancing due to Sean Miller's underperformances. And I got to say, this is overachieving at this point for Texas. Texas in the Sweet 16 was not on many people's bingo cards. So shout out to Coach Sean Miller for getting Texas to the Sweet 16. Shout out Jordan Pope. Huge performance against Gonzaga yesterday. And shout out to Texas Longhorns, man. Being in the Sweet 16. Also, our other loss was the Vanderbilt Nebraska game. We did pick Vandy, had them in my bracket, so I went with my bracket. And Vanderbilt, terrible shot, tied 74-74. Nebraska pushes it, and they get a layup to Braden Frazier, who finishes the game with 15, as Nebraska wins that game 76-74. Tyler Tanner almost hit a three-quarters court. It literally was in the rim, but it rimmed out at the buzzer. So, shout out Nebraska, continuously making history. Won their first game against Troy ever in the NCAA tournament. Now making their first ever Sweet 16. So, shout out Coach Fred Hoiberg and the Nebraska Cornhuskers. But our 6 wins were obviously Michigan State. Got it done against a really good Louisville. Well, I would say against a solid Louisville team. But they do struggle on the road. They, lost in Buffalo. So shout out my boys making the Sweet 16. Michigan for decimating St. Louis, pulling away late in the St. Louis game. I told you I'll take that minus 11.5. So Michigan moves on to the Sweet 16. Their opponent is TBD at the moment. Another win was Duke. Duke pulled away late from TCU. Shout out to Duke for that. Another win. Arkansas, High Point. What a game that was. Rob Martin fouled out with 30 points, looked unguardable against Arkansas. Cam Fletcher also had a game, I think 25-8. Knocking down the 3-ball, getting to the rim. But A-Cuff, another 30-plus point performance. Malik Thomas was hitting some sub shots. Side note, Pistons draft Malik Thomas. But Malik Thomas, a big game. Billy Richmond doing athletic things. Malik Ewan had a really good game. That High Point Arkansas game was probably one of the best games of the night. That and the Vanderbilt Nebraska game. But Arkansas moves on, defeating High Point. High Point has nothing to hold their heads down about. Absolutely great season, and they showed that they can compete with the best of the best in the collegiate game this season. Another one we had was I can't remember in the tournament at least because NIT we went 2-0, but in the tournament another win we had was Houston blowing out Texas A&M, decimating Texas A&M, destroyed them. Shout out to Houston for that. They were just killers on the offensive glass. Another one we had was Illinois blowing out VCU. Keaton Wagler, I think, finished with like 15. It was just an all-around great performance by Illinois. VCU fought their hearts out in the first half, but Illinois just proved to be way too much in that ball game. And I believe that's all the games because we had Arkansas, Illinois, Michigan, Michigan State, Duke, and Houston as wins. And our two losses were again Nebraska winning. We had Vanderbilt and Gonzaga losing because we picked Gonzaga to win. Mark Few. This one I kind of don't put on Mark Few. He missed his best player for 2 months. It's tough not having Braden Huff. And it showed because Master's Vocatitis, he had a good game, man. I mean, Graham Ike had 25. He had a good game as well, but you could tell Vocatitis definitely affected Ike around the rim, missing some shots that he would normally hit. He settled for a 3-ball midway through the second half. I felt like he shouldn't have settled, but I felt like the Vocatitis defense kind of made him settle. But yeah, Gonzaga goes out in the first weekend again. Now, NIT, we got both games right. We got the Liberty Nevada game right. We picked Nevada. Liberty started off hot, but Nevada weathered the storm, early storm, and won the game. Same as Dayton and Wilmington, UNC Wilmington. UNC Wilmington went up 7-0. Dayton weathered the storm midway through the first half and took off from there. So, as you can see, NIT 13-5. Tournament 30-14 against 6 NIT games, so it could get crazy. 8 tournament games. I'm just happy to be above 500 in the tournament after the way we started. We started off bad, but overall we are 98-53. Which is this is what I like to see, man. 45 games above 500. Love it. Love to see that we are closer to 100 wins. So let's get it. Let's get into the games today. Small little recap for y'all, but today we got 6 NIT games. We're going to start with first. We always do the NIT first, and we save the tournament for last. In the NIT first game, we have Illinois State taking on Wake Forest. Now, Illinois State got here blowing out Kent State, while Wake Forest got here beating Navy, pulling away late. This game is at 4:30 on ESPN2, so you can catch it with the tournament games. Multi-view it. Wake Forest is coming into this one 7.5-point favorites. Now, Illinois State is a good team. They can score the basketball. They are led by Chase Walker, averaging 13.7 points per game, 5.3 rebounds, and 1 steal. Johnny Kinzinger, averaging 11.4 points per game, and 1.3 steals. And Tyreek Coleman, averaging 10.3 points per game. The X factor is going to be Bowden Skunkberg, and his three-point shooting, averaging 42.2% from the three-point line. Going to be big, kind of trying to cancel out the three-point shooting of Juke Harris and Nate Combs. But Wake Forest, they are led by Juke Harris, averaging 21.5 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, and 1.3 steals. Miles Colvin, averaging 11.6 points per game, 4.4 rebounds, 1.2 steals. And Trayvon Spillers, averaging 10.9 points per game, 5.7 rebounds, 1 steal, and 1 block. The X factor again for me is going to be Nate Combs with his three-point shooting, shooting 40.6% from the three-point line and averaging 10.6 points per game. But ultimately, I chose Wake Forest being at home, man. Wake Forest is, again, a solid ACC school to me. I don't think that Illinois State has the presence inside like Navy had to bother Wake Forest a little bit. I do think that Illinois State is a team that can score the basketball, and that could maybe bode an issue for Wake Forest. But ultimately, I just love the athletes that Wake Forest have with Juke Harris, Miles Colvin shooting the ball. And Trayvon Spillers, his activity around the rim. So I'm going to take Wake Forest in this matchup over Illinois State. Excuse me. Next, we got Seattle U coming into this one, beating the St. Thomas Tommies. Taking on Auburn, who at one point did look like they might have to win a close one against South Alabama. But Auburn is 12.5-point favorites in this matchup. This game is 6:30 on ESPN2, so right after Wake Forest, Illinois State. So again, you can multi-view it with the rest of the tournament games. Now, Seattle, led by Braden Maldonado, averaging 14.4 points per game, 1.5 steals. Will Heimbrook, averaging 12.3 points per game, 5.3 rebounds, 1.3 blocks. 1.3 steals and 2.6 blocks. And Junsuk Yao, averaging 11.9 points per game and 4 rebounds per game. The X factor to me is going to be John Christophilus, and he's going to have to help them score against an Auburn team who went nuclear from 3 Tuesday night. He scored 10 points versus St. Thomas. He's a 6.3 points per game scorer, and he shoots it at a 37.8% clip from the 3-point line. Auburn, led by Keyshawn Hall, 19.9 points per game, 6.7 rebounds. Tahad Pettiford, 15.4 points per game, 3.6 assists and 1.1 steals. And Kevin Overton, averaging 13.6 points per game, 1.1 steals. Now, their X factor would normally be Keyshawn Murphy, but he did not play against South Alabama, and I'm not sure if he's playing today or not. So I went with the guy who had 10 boards versus South Alabama. He averages 8.9 points per game, and Elijah Freeman. He's going to have to score and rebound the ball, especially with Heimbrook down low. He's averaging 5 boards, but again, he had 10 against South Alabama, averaging 8.9 points per game. So he's going to be big like he was in the South Alabama game. But my winner is Auburn. I think Auburn gets it done. Auburn, Keyshawn Hall and Tahad Pettiford is going to be a problem for the Seattle U team. I mean, a big one. I don't know if they have anybody that can stay in front of Tahad, let alone Keyshawn Hall. Keyshawn Hall is going to, both of them probably going to get to the rim, however, and whenever they want. And then you match that with both of them being able to shoot a 3-ball. It's going to be tough. I think those two are going to be a super problem for Seattle. And with that being said, I'm taking Auburn in this matchup. Might take the minus 12.5. Can't even lie. But next, my boy, UNLV taking on Tulsa. Tulsa coming into this one is surviving a scare against Stephen F. Austin. UNLV coming into this one is upsetting UC Irvine on the road as a dog. So UNLV in familiar territory on the road as a dog taking on Tulsa. Tulsa's favored by 4.5 points per game. This game is 7 o'clock on ESPNU. So this one's kind of going to get tricky when it comes to the multi-view, man, because you got college basketball, like the tournament. You got 2 games, probably 3 coming on around this time. Then you got 2 NIT games. So now it's time to make choices. But UNLV, they're led by Drake Gibbs Longhorn, averaging 0.4 points per game and 1.5 steals. Kamani Hamilton, averaging 12.9 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, 1.1 steals. And Tyron Jones, averaging 11.7 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, 1 steal, and 2.2 blocks. Now, that X factor to me is going to be Howie Fleming Jr. as always. He had 12 points and 9 rebounds in the win versus UC Irvine, and he's going to have to give similar production for them to beat a highly explosive Tulsa team. Speaking of, they are led by David Green, averaging 16.1 points per game, 4.5 rebounds. Tylen Riley, averaging 15 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, and 4.3 assists. And Miles Barnstable, the shooter, averaging 14.5 points per game, 3.8 rebounds per game. But that X factor to me is going to be Jalen Lawal. He had 21 points off the bench against Stephen F. Austin. His scoring off the bench is going to be huge against a UNLV team that can score the ball. And like I said, he had 21. He's averaging 7.5 points per game off the bench. So I think he'll be big if Tulsa beats UNLV. But going with the upset again, man, I'm taking UNLV. I am taking UNLV to win this ball game. I think they are well coached. I think they can score the ball. I think they play defense really well at times. And I think that Tulsa can give up points. So I think this game kind of plays into UNLV hands. Both teams like to run. Both teams like to get out there. So I think UNLV on the road can pull off the upset, man. I always blank on UNLV coach, and I love him too. I always blank on his name, though. I confuse it with somebody. And I'm so mad I do it, too. Josh Pastner. I always be wanting to say Josh Eustace, and I know that's wrong. Josh Pastner. Love Josh Pastner as a coach. Can see him making his push at an NIT title. So I am taking UNLV in the upset here. Next, we have G-Dub, George Washington, taking on New Mexico at the pit. 8 o'clock on ESPN+. Now, New Mexico is 7.5-point favorites in this matchup. They are coming off a blowout win against Sam Houston, while George Washington is coming off of a 1-point win against Utah Valley, where again I think Utah Valley fumbled that game. But nonetheless, New Mexico is 7.5-point favorites again on ESPN Plus. For George Washington, they are led by Rafael Castro, averaging 15.6 points per game, 8.9 rebounds, 1.8 steals, and 1.7 blocks. Gary Johnson, 11.4 points per game, and Trey Autry, 11.1 points per game, 3.6 rebounds. Now, that X factor to me is going to be Tyrone Marshall Jr. He's averaging 14.5 points per game in the last two. He's averaging in the season 9 points per game and 4.7 rebounds. He's going to have a big game and help rebound against guys like Bullhan and JT Rock coming off the bench. So, and Antonio Charles. So, I think Tyrone Marshall Jr. is going to play a big role in this game. Next, we have New Mexico, led by Jake Hall, 15.9 points per game. Tomislav Bullhan, averaging 12.8 points per game, 10.4 rebounds, and 1.1 steals. And Dayton Aubrey, averaging 11.9 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, and 1.5 steals. Now, that X factor to me would be normally Uriah Tenet, but today I went with Antonio Chol. He had 11 points and 5 rebounds in the win against Sam Houston. I think if he can put in a nice little solid scoring effort and grab some boards, I think that would be really big for New Mexico. New Mexico is a team that can play defense. They have issues scoring the ball at times, but I think they will be okay at the pit. And my winner is going to be New Mexico. 1, the pit. Huge home court advantage, right? 2, George Washington. Are they used to playing at this elevation in New Mexico? Could be a factor with fatigue. And 3, I just think, man, New Mexico's a tough out of the pit. They play really good defense. And again, I do feel like George Washington should have lost that game to Utah Valley. So I am going to roll with New Mexico with the home court advantage, altitude advantage, and I think they're the better team. So give me New Mexico in this one. Now, the next game, this one was tough because there's a lot of unknowns for a certain team. And that's Wichita State at Oklahoma State. 8:30 on ESPN2. Oklahoma State, in spite of the unknowns, are 3.5-point favorites in this matchup. And I can't say I'm surprised. But Wichita State is coming off of a win against Wyoming. Again, shout out Coach Sundance Wicks for, saying, hey, any opportunity for us to play ball, we taking it. But Wichita State got the dub. And Oklahoma State is coming out escaping Davidson at home, again, due to the suspensions of Anthony Roy, Victorious Miller, and I think Isaiah Coleman. So that didn't see it pregame, came out of left field for me. But those are the unknowns for Oklahoma State. Now, Wichita State, they're led by Kenyon Giles, averaging 19.1 points per game, 1.6 steals. Karan Boyd, 10.7 points per game, 5.8 rebounds. And Will Berg, 8.8 points per game, 8.2 rebounds, and 1.4 steals. Now, their X factor is going to be TJ Williams. TJ Williams, he led the team in scoring against Wyoming. He had 17 points and 14 boards off the bench. So he is going to be huge if he can have a big game. Next, we have Oklahoma State. Now, these guys, are they still suspended? Are they coming back? Nothing so far. But Anthony Roy is their leading scorer, averaging 17.2 points per game, 4.1 rebounds. Victorious Miller, averaging 10.9 points per game, 1.1 steals. And Kanye Clary, averaging 10.4 points per game, 4.7 assists, and 1.2 steals. The X factor to me is going to be Jalen Curry. Jalen Curry is averaging 10.3 points per game. A guy that can get to the rim. He had 11 points versus Davidson. Can he put up a similar output if these guys are back? Which, if he does, that makes them dangerous. But I am going to take Oklahoma State, man. Wichita State is a solid team. They can play some solid defense. But I think Oklahoma State is primed to make another NIT run just like last year. That win against Davidson kind of showed me that they have some depth to them. You miss your 2 leading scorers and another key contributor. And yeah, you might say it's Davidson, but Davidson is still a very good offensive team. And you put up 84 points in a win. Very, very good performance showing that they have depth. And I'm going to take Oklahoma State. I'm assuming that those players may be back. So I'm going to take Oklahoma State in this matchup. And the last matchup, which this one was a tough one for me to pick. St. Joseph's at Cal. Cal's 5.5-point home favorites. This game is 9 o'clock on ESPNU. Um, St. Joseph's is coming off the win against Colorado State, while Cal is coming off a blowout win against UI. St. Joseph's, I don't know what that was. St. Joseph's is led by Jaden Glover Toscano, averaging 15.8 points per game, 4.8 rebounds. Derek Simpson, averaging 13.5 points per game, 5.2 rebounds, 5.2 assists, and 1.4 steals. And Deshair Haskins, averaging 10.9 points per game, 6.3 rebounds. Now, that X factor for me in this one, I went with Anthony Finkler with his scoring off the bench. He had 10 points off the bench against Colorado State. He's averaging 5.7 points per game. I think he'll be big going against two guards that could light it up for the Cal Golden Bears. So I think he'll be an X factor in this one. But Cal, led by Dede Ames, averaging 17 points per game. Justin Pippen, averaging 14.4 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and 1.9 steals. And Lee Dort, averaging 8 points per game, 7.8 rebounds. My X factor in this one for Cal, I went back to the Chris Bell. Chris Bell still averaging 13.9 points per game, 39.9% from the three-point line. I think if he gets hot, the game could get dangerous for St. Joseph's. And that's why I went with Cal, because I just think Cal has too much firepower. Colorado State had some firepower, but not enough that St. Joseph's, couldn't put out. I think Cal has more firepower than St. Joseph's can put out. St. Joseph's has some firepower, well, don't get me wrong, but I think Cal is just way too gifted offensively, and I have Cal moving on in this game. Now, that is the NIT, and shout out to Golfy Gobblers. He said Michigan is winning. I guess he assumes winning it all. We'll see, man. We got the round of 32 to get by today, and then the Sweet 16 is set. Obviously, as you can tell, I hope they don't, but they have a strong chance. I'm not going to lie. As a Michigan State fan, I can definitely see Michigan winning it all. But again, hopefully that is not right. But appreciate you for tuning in. But speaking of the round of 32, we're going to move on to the round of 32. That concludes our NIT segment. Again, moving on to the round of 32, where the first game we have today is the Miami Hurricanes taking on Purdue. The Purdue Boilermakers. Miami comes into this one pulling away late against Missouri, while Purdue comes into this one beating Queens University. Now, Purdue is 7.5-point favorites. This game is 12-10 on CBS, so the first game to tip off for the day. So, should be a good one. Miami is a 7 seed. Purdue is a 2 seed in their region. Miami, they are led by Malik Renal, who has a ton of experience playing against Purdue, playing for Purdue's rival in the Indiana Hoosiers. So this should be a good one. Malik Renal is averaging 19 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, and 1 steal. Now, also, who has a ton of, well, I won't say a ton, but has experience playing against a Big Ten team, Trey Donaldson, who played for Michigan last year. Trey Donaldson, 16.5 points per game, 3.6 rebounds, 5.8 assists, and 1.4 steals. And True Washington, who didn't play against a season of a Big Ten school, but he played against a Big Ten school in this same exact round, playing for New Mexico, playing against Michigan State. True Washington, 12 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 1.8 steals per game. Now, their X factor to me is going to be Ernest Udoh. Why? He's going to be dealing with Trey Kaufman-Renn and Oscar Clough. Again, Oscar Clough has been very integral for the success of Purdue as of late. But Ernest Udoh, he's averaging 6.8 points per game, 9.3 rebounds, 1.4 blocks, and yeah, he's going to be dealing with Trey Kaufman-Renn and Oscar Clough. Now, Purdue, they are led by Braden Smith. Braden Smith averaging 14.3 points per game, 3.6 rebounds, 9 assists, and 1.7 steals. Again, shout out to him for breaking the assist record. Now he's just looking to add on to the assist record, which that record might not be standing long. If somebody got something to say about it, y'all know who I'm referring to. Mr. 27 assists in 2 games. But anyway, Trey Kaufman-Renn, 14 points per game, 8.5 rebounds per game, and Fletcher Lawyer averaging 13.8 points per game. Now, their X factor is obviously going to be Oscar Clough, man. Oscar Clough, 9 points, 11 boards versus Queen. And even before that game, he was averaging close to a double-double in the last 5. So, again, Oscar Clough is huge for the success of the Purdue Boilermakers. And my winner is on my bracket, I got Purdue, so I'm going with Purdue. I'm going with the Boilermakers here. I think Miami is a really good team. I think Miami can actually put up a super fight here. Miami is really good offensively, but My issue is when it comes to if Ernest Udo gets into foul trouble, guarding TKR or Oscar Clough. They don't really, in my opinion, have the depth in the front court to possibly deal with this Purdue team, which I think could ultimately hurt them. I love Sheldon Henderson, athletic freshman, can get to the rim. He can play some solid defense. He can help in the front court, but I don't know if Sheldon Henderson is much help against TKR. Also, Purdue has a ton of shooters, which I'm not saying Miami doesn't. Miami has shooters too, and Trey Donaldson, Dante Allen, True Washington can shoot three, but I just think Purdue is a little bit of a outmatches them in the front court, which is what Purdue is been in the couple years past and prior. They want to beat you in the front court, and I think they have the ability to do so against Miami. So give me Purdue in this matchup. Next, this game is going to be a tough one, man. We got Kentucky, 7 seed Kentucky, who literally escaped Santa Clara, ruining my perfect day that day. And we have them taking on Iowa State, who blew out Tennessee State, but in that blowout did lose Joshua Jefferson, at least for this game. Now, obviously, there is no guarantees of tomorrow, so they have to win this game for Joshua Jefferson injury update to be in question. But this is a huge loss against a Kentucky team. Kentucky, is a 7 seed. Iowa State is a 2 seed in the respective regions. Kentucky, they are led by. One more thing. Iowa State's 5.5 point favorites. This game is 2:45 on CBS. Now, Kentucky, led by Otega Owe. Again, I've said this multiple times on my pod. He is clutch. And if you had any questions about how clutch he is, the Santa Clara game should have all but sealed how clutch he is. He is averaging 18.7 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, and 1.8 steals. Denzel Aberdeen averaging 13.3 points per game, 3.5 assists, and Malachi Marino averaging 7.9 points per game, 6.3 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks per game. Oh my Lord. Their X factor to me is going to be Colin Chandler. Colin Chandler is a guy, again, who can shoot the ball, can attack the rim, put pressure on the rim. So I think he'll be big. He's averaging 9.8 points per game. I think he'll be big in this matchup, trying to add extra firepower to this Kentucky team. Now, Iowa State, they are led by Tamin Lipsey. He is averaging 12.9 points per game, 3.9 rebounds, 4.9 assists, and 2.2 steals. Milan Momasilovic, who is averaging 17.1 points per game. And I inserted Blake Buchanan with the loss of Joshua Jefferson, because Blake Buchanan is going to have to step up and be an interior presence. He's averaging 8.5 points per game, 5.7 rebounds, and 1 block per game. Now, the X factor to me is going to be Nate Heisey shooting the 3-ball outside. His outside shot is going to be big. He's averaging 33.8% from the 3-point line. He's averaging 5.2 points per game. But against Tennessee State, he had 22 points. So if he can, I'm not going to sit here and act like he's going to have a 20-point performance yet again. But if he can give me a double-digit performance again against Iowa State with the loss of Joshua Jefferson, that would be big. Ultimately, I am going to stick with my bracket. I am going to stick with Iowa State. I do think Iowa State, how they play defensively, will bother Kentucky. Now, Kentucky now is going to have the size advantage, obviously, due to the injury of Joshua Jefferson. They're going to have Marino, Garrison. Garrison had a great game against Santa Clara, and Diabate. But I just think the tenacity that Iowa State brings on defense is going to bother Kentucky. And then Coach TJ is such a great coach. I think he'll have a great game plan without Joshua Jefferson. So I'm just going to go with the better coach right now. Not to say Mark Pope is a bad coach, because I'm not saying that. But at this moment, I do believe Coach TJ is a better coach than Coach Mark Pope. But Mark Pope is still young on his Kentucky journey, coming from BYU a couple years ago. So I am taking the coaching advantage, in my opinion, and the better defensive team here. I'm going with Iowa State in this matchup. The next matchup, and shout out to, what was it, Tito the 31st. Appreciate you for stopping by. Next, we have St. John's. St. John's is a 5th seed taking on 4th seed Kansas. St. John's is actually 3.5 point favorites here. This game is 5:15 on CBS. St. John's is coming off of a blowout against UNI. Again, never understood why people thought UNI was even going to win that game. And Kansas is coming off of dominant performance against Cal Baptist. So shout out both teams. But St. John's, they are led by Zuby Ejiofor, averaging 16.3 points per game, 7.3 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 1.2 steals, and 2.2 blocks. Bryce Hopkins, he's averaging 13.5 points per game, 6.2 rebounds, and 1.1 steals. And Osiah Sellers, averaging 10.7 points per game. Now, their X factor to me is going to be the same X factor I always have, Dylan Mitchell. Against UNI, he had 7 points, 9 boards. Yep, he's averaging 8.2 points per game, 7 rebounds, and he's their ultimate glue guy. So I do like Dylan Mitchell as their X factor. Now for Kansas, they're led by Darren Peterson. Darren Peterson, he's averaging 20.1 points per game, 4.2 rebounds, and 1.5 steals. Floyd Badunga, averaging 13.3 points per game, 9.1 rebounds, 2.6 blocks. And Melvin Council Jr. averaging 12.6 points per game, 4.9 rebounds, 5.1 assists, and 1 steal. Now, their X factor to me is going to be Trey White. Trey White is their third leading scorer, I believe. He's their second leading scorer. He's averaging 13.8 points per game. He had 12 points against Cal Baptist. And they're going to need the points against a really good St. John's team. But ultimately, my bracket says St. John's in this matchup. I'm taking St. John's in this matchup. Darren Peterson, great player. Still don't know if he's going to be playing his – I don't know how many minutes he's going to play. I'm still a little – what's the word I'm looking for? I forgot the word I'm looking for, but I don't know, man. I just don't know if I could trust them to play the big minutes they need them to play consistently. Now, this is 2 days after – basically 2 days after the game that it is played. So, I think St. John's, though, is a better – like a more consistent offensive and defensive team here. Zuby Ejiofor versus Floyd Badunga is going to be fun to watch, but I think Zuby Ejiofor could get Badunga in some foul trouble, and that could be big. Bryce Hopkins, I would love to see what he does, but I'm taking St. John's in this matchup, man. I think Rick Pitino, great coach. He's going to have a great game plan against Kansas. Bill Self, solid coach as well. Oh my God. Terms and phrases I normally use are just escaping me today. But you can't turn a blind eye to Bill Self, for lack of a better term. And I just think St. John's is the better team, though. I do. And I think they're a more consistent team. I think Kansas is the more talented team with Darren Peterson. But the better overall team, I think, is St. John's. So I'm taking St. John's in this matchup. Next, we have 6th seed Tennessee taking on 3rd seed Virginia. Tennessee coming off of a blowout win against Miami of Ohio, the darlings of the tournament. Some people hated them. I love them personally. And Virginia coming off a game where it felt like Wright State was just destined to win. I can't lie. I'm watching that game the entire time like it's just destiny for Wright State doing this. Man, Virginia about to go down around the 64 again. Different coach, same result. I was about to be sick, but Jakari White stepped up huge for Virginia, and we have this matchup, which I used to love this matchup whenever it happened, back in the days with Coach Bennett and Coach Barnes. I love the matchup, and I mean they're borderline. Virginia borders Tennessee. So anyway, Tennessee is 1.5 point favorites. This game is 16 on TNT. For Tennessee, they are led by Jacoby Gillespie, averaging 18.3 points per game, 5.6 assists, and 2.1 steals. Nate Amon, averaging 17 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, and 1 steal. And Felix Okpara, averaging 7.8 points per game, 6.2 rebounds, and 1.4 blocks. Now, their X factor to me is going to have to be Bishop Boswell. He's got to make some shots. He's got to hit shots. Going against a team in UVA that can hit the 3-ball, as you saw against Wright State, at a high clip. He's got to make shots. He's averaging 6.2 points per game. Definitely need to hit more than his average, in my opinion. Now, Virginia, they're led by Diaz DeRitter. Diaz DeRitter is averaging 15.4 points per game, 6.2 rebounds. Excuse me. Blake Thomas, 12.4 points per game, 3.9 rebounds. And Sam Lewis, 10.8 points per game, 3.7 rebounds per game. Now, their X factor to me is Jakari White. Again, save the bacon, him and Johan Grunlow. But he's shooting the 3-ball at 44.7% from 3, which is amazing. He's averaging 9.3 points per game, but had 26 against Wright State in the win. And I think he's going to be really called upon against Tennessee today. But my winner, going with UVA. Bracket says UVA. I'm going with UVA. Why? Because Tennessee relies too much on Nate Amon and Jacoby Gillespie to score the ball against a UVA school team that could score from multiple people. D.S. DeRitter can score the ball. Sam Lewis can score the ball. Chance Mallory can hit the three. Saw Jakari White take over in the game. So they can score for multiple different people. Also, Dallin Hall, great point guard, gets them in position, sets them up. Grunlow, Yowosu, paint presences, both averaging over 2 blocks a game. Can that mess with Tennessee's interior offense and defense? So I am taking Virginia in this matchup. Tennessee also, no lead is safe with Tennessee yet and still. So even if Tennessee goes up on Virginia, I wouldn't be like, as a Virginia fan, you've seen things like this happen before. We've seen Alabama come back. We've seen Kentucky come back. We've seen teams come back against Tennessee. So I'm going with Virginia here. Next, we have 1 seed Florida taking on 9 seed Iowa. Florida is 10.5-point favorites in this matchup. This game is 7-10 on TBS. Now, Iowa's coming into this game where they basically won wire to wire against Clemson. Same with Florida. They basically won wire to wire against Prairie View A&M. Now, I say basically because the game did get tied in both of those games, but those are basically wire to wire wins. Now, Iowa, they're led by Bennett Sturts. Bennett Sturts averaging 19.9 points per game, 4.4 assists, and 1.5 steals. Tavion Banks averaging 10.3 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, and 1 steal. And Cam Manyow averaging 6.9 points per game, 4.7 rebounds. Now, obviously, Iowa can't mess with Florida in the interior. So their X factor to me is going to be Cooper Koch. Cooper Koch has got to be able to hit the 3 ball. He's shooting the 3 ball at a 39.3% clip. So they're going to have to try to 3s over 2s Florida. Now, Florida, they're led by Alex Condon. 14.9 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and 1.5 blocks. Thomas Houck averaging 17 points per game, 6.2 rebounds, and 1 steal and 1 block. And Ruben Chinelo averaging 11.2 points per game, 11.5 rebounds, and 1.1 blocks. Now, Florida's X factor is going to be Boogie Flan, in my opinion. If Boogie Flan can penetrate, get to the rim, put pressure on these bigs of Iowa, maybe put some of them in foul trouble, or penetrate and get these bigs easier shots, kick out, stuff like that. He's averaging 11.7 points per game, but it'll make the game real easy for Florida. And my winner, Florida. Florida's my national champ. I'm going with Florida. I actually got Florida minus 10.5 on the little slip, but I just think Florida's too much. I think they're too much for Iowa. I think they're too much for a lot of teams. And Iowa relies way too much on Bennett Sturts. If Bennett Sturts don't get going like he really couldn't get going against Clemson, this game could get ugly. So give me Florida in this matchup. We have 3 more games left, excuse me. One of the 3 is the Utah State-Arizona game. Utah State, 9 seed, Arizona, 1 seed, where Arizona dominated LIU. I think they won that game wire to wire. Utah State coming off of a second half comeback against Villanova. Villanova went up 10. Utah State rallied back to win the game. This game is 7:50 on True TV. Arizona's 11.5-point favorites in this matchup. And Utah State is led by MJ Collins. MJ Collins averaging 17.7 points per game. Mason Foslev averaging 16.2 points per game, 5.8 rebounds, 1.9 steals. And Drake Allen averaging 7.8 points per game, 4.7 assists, and 2 steals. Now, the X factor to me is going to be Adlin Elamine, averaging 6.7 points per game. He had 13.7 rebounds against Villanova. He was making big plays, making big shots against Villanova. Going to need that same production today. Now, Arizona, they're led by Braden Burries. Braden Burries averaging 16 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, 1.5 steals. Koa Pete, 13.7 points per game, 5.4 rebounds. And Jaden Bradley averaging 13.1 points per game, 3.6 rebounds, 4.5 assists, and 1.6 steals. Now, that X factor to me is going to be Monty Eunice Krivos. He's going to have to dominate the paint. They don't have a guy his size that can deal with him. He had 9.7 boards against LIU, but he's averaging 10.4 points per game and 8 boards per game for the Wildcats. Need him to dominate the paint. And I'm also going with the Wildcats. I think Arizona is just too much for Utah State. I do have them minus. I can't remember if I got 11.5 or 12.5 or wherever I got it at, but I do have it on that same slip as Florida. I just think that Arizona is way too much for the Aggies. So I'm taking them over Utah State. Arizona's been playing like one of the best teams in the country. Again, they had one bad week where they lost 2 games. Other than that, flawless. And I do think that Utah State just doesn't have enough. Now, next, we got a really good game here. We got some injury concerns, though. For UCLA, Tyler Bilodeau, is he a go? For UConn, Silas Demery, is he a go? UCLA is the 7th seed. UConn is the 2 seed. This game is 8:45 on TNT. UConn comes to this as 4.5 point favorite, excuse me. Now, UCLA comes off a win against UCF, which it looked like, I feel like the game was safe, but it did look like UCF was about to pull off a comeback, force overtime. And UConn coming off a game where they were in a close one against Furman, but were able to pull away late. Now, UCLA is led by Donovan Dent. Donovan Dent's averaging 13.4 points per game, 7.5 assists, and 1.7 steals. Tyler Bilodeau, again, questionable now. Got the news late, right before tip-off, that Bilodeau wasn't playing against UCF, but they still got the dub thanks to Eric Daly, who had 20, who was my X factor in that one. Xavier Booker and Trent Perry both putting in 15. But Tyler Bilodeau's averaging 17.6 points per game and 5.6 rebounds. Sky Clark, 11.5 points per game, 1.2 steals. And their X factor to me is going to be Xavier Booker. He had 15 points, 8 boards against UCF. He's shooting a 3-ball at a 42.2% clip, averaging 7.2 points per game. He's going to have to step up, even with Bilodeau playing, because he's going against a really good UConn team. Now, UConn, they're led by Solo Ball, 13.4 points per game. Alex Caravan, 12.9 points per game, 5.2 rebounds. And Terrence Reed Jr., 14.3 points per game, 8.7 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game. Now, their X factor to me is going to be Braylon Mullins, counteracting the shooting of UCLA. He had 12 points against Furman. He averaged 12 points per game. So he had his average. I think if he could put up a big time scoring performance for UConn, hey, man, UCLA is going to be a tough night. This game is close. My bracket says UConn. I'm going UConn in this matchup. I do think that Coach Hurley is a better coach than Coach Cronin, even though Coach Hurley be rubbing me the wrong way sometimes with the crying, but still a great coach. But I think UConn defensively can get into UCLA as an offense. Donovan Dent is going to do his best to get great looks for his players, his teammates. But ultimately, they got a tough matchup trying to stop Solo Ball, Terrence Reed down low, Terrence Reed Jr. down low, and Alex Caravan from shooting and or penetrating. So I got UConn, man. I got UConn in this matchup. I do think it could be a close game, a fun game to watch. I ultimately have UConn pulling off the win. In the last game, which should be a barn burner, we got Texas Tech versus Alabama. Bama being a 4 seed, Texas Tech being a 5 seed. Y'all know I love both of these coaches, Coach McCaslin for Texas Tech and Coach Oates for Alabama. Definitely going to be excited to watch this one. Now, Texas Tech is coming off a 20-point win against Akron, which they pulled away late. Same as Bama against Hofstra, pulled away late. So this should be a good one. Both of them shoot the 3-ball exceptionally well, but one team plays defense and one team doesn't, for real. And we're going to start with Texas Tech. Oh, by the way, Bama's actually favored in this one by 1.5 points. This game is 9:45 on TBS. And for Bama, they're obviously without Aiden Holloway. And for Texas Tech, they're obviously without JT Toppin. Now, Texas Tech, they are led by Christian Anderson, 18.9 points per game, 3.7 rebounds, 7.5 assists, and 1.4 steals. Donovan Atwell, 13.5 points per game, 1.2 steals. And LaJuan Watts, 11.6 points per game, 6 rebounds per game. Now, their X factors are going to be the same X factor as always. Jalen Petty. Again, shooting the 3-ball exceptionally well, 38.5% from the 3-point line, 9.9 points per game, but had 24 against Akron. A huge game for him. Alabama, led by LeBaron Fallon, 22 points per game, 4.8 assists, 1.2 steals. Quietly one of the best point guards in the country. I know Darius Acup is getting a lot of attention, and rightfully so. But LeBaron Fallon is a dog right along with him. Latrell Ricel, 12.7 points per game and 1 steal. And Amari Allen, 11.6 points per game, 7.1 rebounds, 1.1 steals. Now, that X factor to me is Aiden Sorrell. Aiden Sorrell had 15 points and 15 boards against Hofstra. He's going to have to be a really solid paint presence, especially against LaJuan Watts. Maybe even bring him outside the paint with his shooting ability. But he's averaging 11.2 points per game, 6.4 boards. Not saying he needs a 15-15 game. That's a crazy, almost cursed. That's how great of a game that was. Crazy performance. But if he can have a double-double, maybe double-digit scoring, close to double-digit effort rebounding, defending the rim, that'd be really good for the Bama Roll Tide. But ultimately, I'm going to take what my bracket says. And my bracket says Texas Tech. I'm taking a better defensive team. Grant McCasland and Texas Tech is the better defensive team. Again, Bama, I do struggle with picking them sometimes due to how they are not as good defensively. But both teams, elite 3-point shooting teams, both teams can score at high rates. I just think Bama not being a better defensive team here, not really being a defensive team here can hurt because Texas Tech, they could score with the best of them, and they play defense. So I'm going to take Texas Tech in this matchup, both as a seeding upset and a gambling upset. Bracket says Texas Tech. I'm going with Texas Tech. But, I mean, to me, I win either way. I love both these teams. But I'm going Texas Tech. And with that being said, that is the final game I have for y'all today. Thanks, everybody who tuned in. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. It helps the channel, helps the network. Speaking of the network, we have multiple shows on the network. The first show we have is the main show featuring Joe, Tomo, and Dave. They go live on Mondays and Thursdays between 7 and 8:30. I should start saying PM. It's not a morning show, PM. So make sure y'all tune in. We have Unfazed, who went live on Thursday, so make sure you check them out. That's Joe and AJ. We have BWT, Baseball with Teddy. The regular season in baseball starts in 3 days. It starts Wednesday with the Yankees Giants, so I'm pretty sure he's going to have content about that. We got FFC, Fantasy Football with Coach Coombs. Obviously, the NFL season's over, so fantasy football season's over. But, again, free agency is down, winding down. The draft's around the corner, so make sure you check him out for the content he drops. We have RVO, Real Ballers Only. My Pistons beat the Warriors. Shout out to them. But, man, it's looking grim. But NBA show featuring Vaughn. Make sure you check him out. Also, again, side note, Pistons, Malik Thomas. Make it happen. Next, we have Dave's Doghouse, highlights and lowlights of sports. Michigan State has avoided the doghouse. So, shout out to them. But make sure you check Dave out. We got In the Red Corner, boxing show featuring Ty, Ricky, and Tomo. They go live on Sundays, not every Sunday, but when they do go live, it is on Sundays. So make sure you check them out. It's normally around 6:30 for all your boxing needs. And the last show we have is Zero Sports Talk with Griffey, the newest show added to the network. Again, don't think he goes live. So just catch his episodes when they drop. And yeah, just make sure to look out for his episodes and catch them when they go live. But when they drop, excuse me. But please like, comment, share, subscribe to those shows as well. And if you like what you're listening to, stick with us. Now, again, that's all I got for y'all today. This is the last day of the week. I got through another first week of tournament NIT. This is my third year doing this. So, man, it was a lot of work, but there's a lot of fun work to do. A lot of early mornings, but I got it done. I won't see y'all until Tuesday because that's when the NIT round of, I think, 8. That'll be down when the NIT starts to have their Elite 8. We got a Tuesday and a Wednesday. I'm going to just do it all in one show on a Tuesday show. It's only 4 games in total, 2 on Tuesday, 2 on Wednesday. So I'm going to just make it all one show. But that's when y'all will see me again. I'll be taking a break on Monday. Y'all enjoy these college basketball Sunday games, man. I know I will. 14 games to enjoy, 8 NCAA tournament, 6 NITs. And good luck on all your brackets. Again, mine might be cooked. Wisconsin cooked me. So good luck with all your brackets, your bracket challenges, your money bracket leagues, and all that stuff. Next show y'all will see. I don't think In the Red Corner is going live, so I think the next show y'all will see is the main show. So make sure y'all tune into that tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern, till about 8:30 at night PM. But with that being said, I'm gone. Peace.
Thank you for staying to the end. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like this video, subscribe, and also hit that notification button so you can be notified next time we put out a video. If you're listening on any podcast platform, subscribe and hit that notification button, y'all, so you can be notified we put out another podcast audio. And last but not least, hit that share button. No matter what you're listening to or watching it, hit that share button and send it to somebody that you know that would love to watch this episode you just listened to. So once again, thank you for staying to the end, and we'll see y'all in the next episode.